Hello again. This is Great Work, helping people who do work we care about have better working lives, with me, Adam Sandel. Tired, exhausted, or burnt out? Which are you? I'm a little exhausted at the moment. My current job's the most fulfilling one I've ever had, but my hospital medical director role is a big one that, despite being shared, is beginning to wring me out. I had last week off and went to see the new Superman film, which is ridiculous but fun. Afterwards, I switched on my phone and was met by texts about 3 different work things. Meanwhile, I seem to have hit that point in life where working during the night, as I do when covering our emergency room a couple of times a week, leaves me with a hangover that lasts days. I need a break. But I'm not burnt out. This is a distinction that matters, and let's define 3 concepts for ourselves. First, tired. You, me, and everyone else. Sometimes there's something seriously wrong, depression, say, or some other undiagnosed medical condition. But usually it's 21st century life. We cram in too much and we don't rest well. We don't afford sleep the vast respect it deserves. We disappear into mind-mushing social media. We prioritise not what matters most, but that which leaves us feeling drained. You're tired? Welcome to the club, but read on for some ideas that may help. Secondly, exhausted. Exhausted comes from Latin words meaning drained out. I want to define it as something more dysfunctional than just 21st century tiredness. Exhaustion from work accumulates over time, and there's a risk that your perspective starts becoming impaired. You may still be enjoying your work, getting moments of meaning and a sense of achievement from it, but perhaps less. You begin anticipating breaks as recovery rather than just a shift of gear. People or things could begin to irritate you more than they should. Hang out in exhaustion land for too long, and it may get a lot worse. Unless you do something about it now, you're in danger of straying into the land of, thirdly, burnout. Now, there's a lot out there about burnout. In the work context, burnout has an authoritative, if imprecise, definition published by the World Health Organization. Burnout, says the WHO, is a syndrome conceptualized as resulting from chronic workplace stress that has not been successfully managed. It's characterized by 3 dimensions. First, feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion. Second, increased mental distance from one's job or feelings of negativism or cynicism related to one's job. And third, a sense of ineffectiveness and lack of accomplishment. There's the World Health Organization. Focus on those words negativism and cynicism and the sense of lack of accomplishment. With burnout, your work's now making your life significantly worse. Of course, work that's burned you out may well be a bad job by anyone's standard. But once you're here, you're unlikely to be seeing it from a healthy perspective, accurately evaluating its pros and cons. You're seeing it negatively. Negativism, as the WHO had it, or cynically. You're fed up, pissed off, ground down. Burnout's closely related to, and there's some evidence that it may even be a form of, depression. This is serious. There's a 4th concept beyond tiredness, exhaustion, and burnout. The Japanese language has a word for it, karoshi. Karoshi, if I'm pronouncing it right, means death from overwork. But there's nothing uniquely Japanese about karoshi. One international study estimates that globally 750,000 of us die early each year as a result of excessive work hours. So let's try and fix this before we get anywhere near karoshi. Focusing on burnout seems to me a little like when improving your swimming technique, focusing on drowning. There's got to be a better approach. Now, the buzzword that often follows burnout is resilience, which has been defined as the ability to cope well with stressful situations and perhaps to learn from adversity and bounce back stronger. This is obviously a good thing, though I'm not wild about resilience as a concept. It's unambitious. We should aspire to thrive in our work, not just to cope. And the implications that the problem is that we're weak and we just need to toughen up. But that's both unhelpful and wrong. The solution is to improve work itself and make next week and next month and next year better. But that's a tough project when we're exhausted and beginning to lose perspective. As the writer H.L. Mencken noted, there's a solution to every human problem, neat, plausible, and wrong. Were there one simple answer to our feeling wrung out by work that we started off caring about, you'd know it already. But there are some good, effective answers, plural. The starting point is recognizing where you are on this spectrum that runs from 21st century tiredness to karoshi, death from overwork. Know thyself, pay regular attention to how you are, and ask yourself honestly, is this just the tiredness of everyday life? Or are you, even if you've grown used to this, now exhausted or, worse, burning out? The critical thing here is to spot that you're becoming exhausted before you start burning out. And then you need to figure out what to do about it. If you're tired, well, think about how you can build in more true rest and leisure every day and every week. You will get more done and do it better if you do. We're living in a pandemic of inadequate slumber. Sleep is phenomenally good for us. We should be protecting and prioritizing it at all costs. Aim for 7 or 8 hours regularly at the same time, undrugged, every day. And put your phone somewhere else for large chunks of each day and find things to enjoy that don't involve the internet. If you're exhausted or burning out, well, the same prerequisites apply. Prioritizing rest, true leisure and sleep, and getting off those bloody devices. But this is now more serious. Those basics are vital, but they may not be enough. Drop all responsibilities and commitments that aren't either nourishing you or truly essential. You might be able to start doing this as soon as you've finished listening to this. Chew things over with someone who knows you and has good judgment. Go on vacation somewhere where you can rest, regain perspective, and think. Consider how it is that you want to be spending your working life and what it is that you really don't want to be doing. Think about how you're reacting to your current situation and how much of that's the situation and how much is you. Could that change for the better? And then if things aren't right, figure out what you can and what you should do about it. Do you need to say no to things to which you've been saying, or perhaps even already have said, yes? Can your job be changed? Could you reduce your hours? There's good evidence that, paradoxically, most of us would get more done and do it better if we worked less hard. Teams and organisations that experiment with a 4-day week usually stick with it. People paid the same to work 4 days instead of 5 achieve more. Would a sabbatical help? Should you be looking for a new job? Sometimes the answer will be to consider a new job or role. Remember that if the problem's partly how you're handling things, as it almost always is, you'll take your personality and all of its idiosyncrasies and foibles with you to any new job. Would it be better to stick for a while in your current role and work on better ways of handling its challenges? But perhaps the right thing for you right now is a change of job. If it clearly is, don't be afraid to make a radical change just because it's radical. Sometimes that's just what's needed. Now, one thing you're missing by listening to this audio version is links for each of these ideas to ways of approaching them, from saying no to more, to figuring out what you really want to be doing with your working life. Get yourself the email version of this if you're interested in any of that. And my exhaustion right now, well, I've reached the point where I need to give up the medical director role. And I took longer than I should have done to realise that I need to stop working nights. But now I have realised that. I'm sad to be saying goodbye to the remote Indigenous community that has so generously welcomed me for these last 4 years or so. But I'll now be working here for only a few more months. And there are new and exciting challenges after that. The last one of these was a snack-sized one, a really short one. Thank you to those of you who clicked on the survey in the email version about whether you wanted more of those or whether you preferred these longer ones. Most of you seem to prefer the deeper dives, so message received. Where's the book got to? I'm writing a practical book about this stuff, and honestly, these ideas fit together best in a coherent, practical manual that sets out the whole great work approach. I now have a first draft of that book, and I know what I need to do to turn that into a better second draft. But to get this sort of non-fiction published successfully, you need what people in publishing call a platform, the influence as an author to ensure a good volume of early sales. I'm not there yet. I'm not a social media kind of guy, and you'll have noticed that I'm no Taylor Swift. This Substack podcast and newsletter are my main platform. There are about 1,700 of you reading or listening to it, which I can't quite believe, but I need to add at least a 0 to that number. So I'm working on spreading the word, more on that soon. And doing some other platform building things. I'm increasingly asked to speak at conferences and on podcasts and in webinars about this stuff, and that's something I love doing. Hey, if you're interested, email me. I'll be taking a writing sabbatical over the winter to finish that second draft. I'm excited about that. The writing's something else I really enjoy. My goal is that in 6 months' time, I'll be ready to start pitching the book to agents and publishers. There, I said it. And meanwhile, if you're able to spread the word about this and help with that much-needed 0, I'd be hugely grateful. The next one of these is going to be a little more journalistic, lessons from a middle school teacher. Look out for it. That's it for this time. If you're getting this via a podcast app or YouTube, do sign up for the email list at www.adamsandell.com. That's adamsandell.com. That way you'll get the podcasts emailed to you when they come out, embedded in an email you can read if you prefer. And it's the link to share if you know anyone else who might be interested. Thank you so much for listening.